Hi, Mr.
Good to see
Mehta.
you.
Thank you so much for having me here on your
Oh,
sprawling
such a
campus
pleasure.
in Ahmedabad. So much to talk about, so let's get started then, because Torrent Pharma,
Yeah,
let's talk about that. It's clearly, blazed the trail when it comes to the pharmaceutical industry with niche marketing is how it started off. And given that all the branded products are doing so well, we've seen the India business grow in double digits.
yeah.
Do you think that with the competition and with what we're seeing around us, that this kind of the outpacing of industry growth is going to continue?
Yeah, I mean, as you would have observed over the last many years, we've been now beating the industry growth. Well, there's no denying that there's been an increased competition in the India space. But given the capabilities that we've created over the last several years, uh, we don't see any constraint in continuing to be able to post a double-digit industry-beating growth.
Okay. Now, even when it comes to the United States, which is a big market for the company, you continue to remain as one of the top US generic Indian companies. Is there any pricing pressure in the United States, and what kind of growth do you foresee in that geography?
So US had been a relatively a late business for us. So in that sense, what was a opportunity missed has possibly been, if we now look back at it in hindsight, has been to our benefit that we don't have as much a stake in that market as many of our other industry friends have.
Right.
Obviously, even within what we have, there had been certain pieces of uh, businesses which were not meeting our profitability criteria.
Right.
So we've exited out of the liquid business recently, and we continue to review our presence in terms of whether does it make sense to continue having that particular product, or should it be reviewed. I mean, so that's constantly to ensure that US piece also comes up to a minimum required profitability threshold.
Right. Back home as well, there's been a lot of cost competitiveness. There's been very strong, pricing power when it comes to the branded business as well, and that has really helped to escalate the company's margins and give a good impetus to the company's domestic margins. Will margin growth continue?
So we believe we are amongst the best-in-class margin at our current level. Uh, Obviously, I mean, business would continue to grow in terms of revenue growth, which would be double-digit. That itself would generate a momentum which would improve the margin further. On the other hand, our last 7-8 years growth, if you look back at it, has been substantially driven through acquisitions that we made.
Yes.
So we have a lot more room to grow on improving our organic growth, and which in the last few quarters has seen significant improvement. We see really a large room to improve and work on our reach in terms of our sales force strength that we have. I mean, last some time, given the acquired businesses that we had, we focused on improving the productivity of the setup that we acquired. But as that's all behind us, we are working on significantly enhancing our reach, and so that itself would, for the next 5 to 7 years, would continue to deliver a sizable growth lever. In terms of our portfolio, it's almost 75% is chronic and subchronic space. So that is a bigger growth driver within
Right.
the Indian pharma, and so that would continue to help us drive the growth. We continuously work on improving our portfolio. So differentiated portfolio is a major thrust, and
Right.
obviously, like everybody else in the industry would benefit from,
Right.
which is off-patent products and patents
Right.
products going off-patent. So that also would contribute to our own growth.
Right. And when it comes to the US filings, can you just give us a little bit of an update? Because that, of course, is very critical to the company's business. What is the update in terms of the Dahej and some of the other plants, the ANDA approvals that are, the inspections as well that are currently underway?
So as you are aware, we got stuck with our inspections because of COVID. I mean, it's been almost now nearly 3 years, I would say,
Yes.
that we submitted our remediation plan to US FDA, and then COVID happened. For 2 years, inspections had been completely suspended, which has, that momentum has begun now, and we believe we should get inspected anytime soon, another 3 months, 4 months time.
Okay.
And hopefully as we get the clearances in due course, that would open up all our pending approvals decisions. And so that would bring the US business back on track.
You know, you spoke about inorganic growth opportunities and acquisitions, etc., and that's what I wanted to touch upon, because Torrent Pharma has really done splendidly well in turning around a lot of the acquired assets in the past. Is there anything on the cards right now? There had been news reports with Curatio, if I'm not mistaken.
Curatio, right.
Curatio. Is there anything on that front that you'd like to confirm or deny?
No, so acquisition opportunities are what are constantly being looked into. I mean, it's at any given point in time, you work on multiple options.
Yes.
Which one materializes is hard to say. So, and Curatio has been one of that, that we did seriously consider. At this point in time, it's hard to say which one will materialize. I mean, but we continue to be very serious on apportioning our growth capital on acquiring businesses in India.
So is there anything right now in the pipeline?
As I said, there are multiple possibilities that we are currently working on.
Okay.
Which one really reaches the closing stage is hard to say.
Okay, fair enough. The diagnostics business, that's something that the group is really exploring and has huge potential as well. So let's understand that. It's a very competitive space, but there's still a lot of opportunity. What's the game plan here?
So it's early days. I mean, we've been now working on defining our blueprint for how would we enter the business.
Yeah.
As you rightly said, it's a space which has seen a lot of competition in the recent time. So we are looking at all possibilities, that how within that emerging competition, that we can create a space for ourselves. I mean, the advantage is that it's for us, it's a new business. We have nothing to lose as on date. So we will carefully weigh all the possibilities and options, and then appropriately conclude our business model.
And with respect to the branded portfolio growth, you know, in terms of the investment opportunities as well, would you be looking very closely at Southeast Asia? Would that be a geography?
Yes, so in terms of branded space, 50% of our total business comes from India, and the remaining 20% plus of the revenue which is coming from branded space is from a market like Brazil, for example, which is our major market outside of India in branded space. And then there are Asian and African markets that we operate in Philippines, in Russia. So those markets would continue to drive similar growth that we've seen in India on the branded space.
Yeah, and just to sort of reiterate, any updates in terms of what the pipeline is for US filings?
So we have, because of this 3 years of non-approval, a fairly decent size of portfolio which is awaiting approval. And then each year will, for the next 3 years, let's say, continue to file anything around 10 to 15 ANDAs.
Okay. Let's move on then and talk about the power business, because that's also a mainstay for the company. And I just want to get your sectoral view, because right now we're grappling with high gas prices, with high interest rates. We've also seen, you know, the pressure coming in from discoms with overdues. How are you looking at the entire landscape, just from a sectoral perspective in the past?
Yeah, it's been the most unprecedented time in that business, and overall I think globally, with what happened on Russia. COVID front, post-COVID, the supply chain disruptions, and then later the Russia-Ukraine crisis. So that's completely destabilized the global energy availability and pricing situations. India relatively has been fortunately less affected when we look at Europe and elsewhere, because having been significantly coal dependent, which was domestically sourced, that is, and a gas which also is reasonably large proportion of that which is domestically produced. So those two sources and increasing reliance on renewable, I think these three
Yes.
put together has helped India to deal with the energy crisis better. But obviously, it still is a huge impact. Prices of crude have gone from around 60 to $120,
Yeah,
and
ever so volatile.
LNG prices, which were as
Yeah.
low as $2.50 to now $40-50
Yeah.
range. I mean, it's been a huge turmoil there in that end. We've been relatively luckier in that sense that
Yes,
our procurement
insulated.
strategy was not relying on short term and contracting medium to long term from different sources which had correlation to either Brent or Japanese index or the Henry Hub, the American index. So that has helped us absorb the crisis,
Right.
and the domestic coal has been another factor that has also been in this situation been of good help to keep the overall cost reasonably down.
Okay, so we've understood quite a bit about the pharma business. Just started off with power. Tell you what, let's take a very quick break. Be right back as we quiz Mr. Mehta lots more about the power business as well as gas. Welcome back. In conversation with the chairman of the Torrent Group, Samir Mehta. Mr. Mehta, we were talking about the outlook on the power business, and I wanted to understand from you in terms of the where gas prices are headed. Does that look a little bit unviable at the current juncture?
So it's anybody's guess what's going to happen
Yeah.
on the gas prices front, given the complex geopolitical situation
Yes.
that we are dealing with. I mean, it's been around $40 to $50 for LNG, the pricing. So how the whole Russia-related situation pans out, that would determine. But it seems that another 2 to 3 years, the prices would take some time to soften to a level which is desirable. Beyond 24, 25, it possibly is a different situation as more supply comes onto the stream to ease the current crisis.
And what about the update on license distribution, updates on Agra, Bhiwandi, etc.? Are there any others in the pipeline?
Yes, the distribution business has been highly efficient and successful one for us. I mean, amongst the privatizations which happen in the country, we have been successful in many of the bids that government had announced. The most recent one had been Diu Dagra Nagar Haveli. That's been operationalized a few months back. In terms of the history of our business, earlier Ahmedabad Electricity Company and later Surat Electricity Company.
Yes.
Even those when we acquired back in the 90s had a reason, I mean, compared to rest of the businesses in the country, had a relatively lower AT&C loss, but still was high as we have brought it down to now a level of almost little over 3% in Surat and a little over 4% in Ahmedabad. I think that competes with the best in the world. A similar trajectory has been achieved at Bhiwandi, which was around 60% when we acquired, and it's now in single digit this year.
Okay.
Again, Agra, which happened a few years later than Bhiwandi, also had a little over 70% losses. So that's also down to single digits. So the new franchises that we have acquired now, and Shil, Mumra, Kadra and all, again, we are working at bringing that down to, in 2 years' time, it's come down from 60% plus to a 30% level.
Okay.
And so like Agra, Bhiwandi and all, that also would be in the single digit in the next some time.
Being one of the largest private sector players within the power space, I understand that the overall capacity stands at about 4,700 odd megawatts,
Right.
including, what is currently underway. What is the outlook on capacity addition?
So most of our investment is in the renewable space.
Right.
Concrete current year additional capacity being worked upon is 7 to 800 megawatt in solar and wind. We last year we added another little over 300 megawatt through acquisitions that we did. So we continue to work on looking at new tenders and new M&A opportunities. So depending on how it pans out, probably over the next 3 to 4 years, looking at a 5 gigawatt portfolio from a nearly 2 gigawatt this year, that should possibly be a reality.
Okay, and in terms of sourcing of gas, I understand 50% of the total, 25% is from Reliance and from IOC, IOCL, and the rest 25% from international RNGL. So can you just walk us through the overall gas sourcing?
So like I was saying earlier, that it's been a mix of sourcing strategy that we have adopted,
Right.
and including short, medium and long term.
Right.
So all this varied sources put together has given us an average cost which is reasonably sustainable in the current crisis. I mean, if let's say like Germany, for example, which was so much exposed to Russian gas,
Yeah.
if something similar had happened, I mean, it's hard to imagine at
Right.
40, 50, $60 gas, what would, I mean, it clearly is non-viable.
Right, right.
So in that sense, that procurement strategy has worked to our advantage. We continue to, I mean, even as recent as April 22 and now just few weeks back again, we've been able to secure from the market spot cargoes, which still works in the current environment. So we continue to work on the strength that we've built over the last 3-4 years of having broad-based our international sourcing, and so that's coming to our advantage in that sense. I mean, we also have a decent LNG trading profit that we're making this year. So
Right.
it's all put together is helping the business remain
Sure.
robust.
And analysts also seem very optimistic, talking about close to a 9% CAGR for Torrent Power over the next few years, FY22 to 24. Would you concur with those estimates?
No, I mean, as you probably know, we don't comment
Divulge
on the
numbers.
guidance of
Yeah.
the businesses.
No, but I mean, just you're seeing sustainable growth for the business right
Yes,
now,
certainly.
or
I
it'll
mean,
be a bit of a rough patch is what I wanted to understand.
No, I think the real rough patch is over to my
Okay.
mind, and
Okay.
moving forward should not be more difficult than what the recent time has been. So it can only be better, I would think.
And the new electrification bill, any views on that?
That's been a step in the right direction. For a long time that was being awaited. I think essentially now it opens up competition, I mean, like the telecom and other service providers. A consumer can pick an alternate supplier if that is the option being available in that region. Earlier there was a provision of second licensee, but the provision was that you have to use you have to create your own network, which now the Act says that you can use the existing network. So
Right.
so you don't have to invest non-productive asset, and so that would accelerate the growth of the sector.
Now let's move on then to the gas business, because that's something that has been a foray for the company, and you all are looking very closely as well at green fuel. Walk us through how you're looking at the overall viability of the business and how you see the overall gas business scaling.
So it's been a recent business for us.
Yes.
We started participating with the auctions that government had, 9th round and 10th round, and the later the additional auctions which happened. We've been reasonably successful, and overall I think we acquired a total of 34 districts, 8 states, almost about close to 10% market share. If when executed, that should put us into the top 2 or top 3 private sector companies in the business. So it's happening at a capital outlay of exceeding 10,000 crores. So that's been
Wow.
an important focus in this last 2 to 3 years.
Yeah. Why don't we sit down and enjoy a cup of coffee as well, as the weather is looking to change right
Yeah, it's
now.
brilliant today.
Yeah, it
Absolutely.
is a lovely day outside. And thankfully no rainfall.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Mr. Mehta, I wanted to understand as well in terms of the international gas prices, uh, you know, now close to, is it $50 per MBTU
Yeah,
right
almost around
now?
that, yeah.
So how are you looking at the overall pricing and, where you really see it stabilizing at?
So fortunately for Torrent gas business, which is the CGD business, 94-95% of the gas comes through GAIL under
Yeah.
what is called the APM regime. So as part of the Government of India's policy back in 2014, that CGD has been the most important priority sector. So given that fact, I mean, relatively that business is less affected because
But
of the turmoil.
is it via contracts that you get lower pricing?
Right. So what, like I said, the
Yeah,
2014
yeah,
policy
yeah.
had laid down CGD as a priority sector, and pricing is determined through the then committee which had looked into a mix of global indexation and how APM pricing should be discovered. So that pricing worked well for almost the next 5-7 years since 2014, but the great impetus to the sector happened with all the last 2 to 3 years, the new GS
Yes.
after the auctions have been now getting commercialized or operationalized. So that has brought the demand up from probably what was 8 million cubic meter per day in 2014 to now almost 21, 22 million.
Okay.
So it's a significant jump, and the formula then was that it would look back at 6 months average consumption and allocate the gas, which itself was taking its own time. So if one looks back at it in September last year, almost for 12 to 18 months time, that had not happened.
Yeah.
So that created kind of a pressure, which government finally, through several consultations that they did with the industry, has come up with a dispensation now that
Yeah.
that it would be dealt on a quarterly basis and a more timely basis. The allocations would happen, and the pricing which had shooted up from what was $1.8 to 6 and now to 10, there's a committee which is appointed
Yes,
to.
I wanted to actually ask you about that, but given that the government has
Yeah.
set up this internal committee, is there any sort of industry representation or requests internally that you have, that the industry has for this?
Yeah, I think what CGD sector has been seeking is that there should be a floor and a ceiling which should provide a reasonable incentive to producer and is not detrimental to consumer interest. Because the way the pricing works in the market is that it's linked to LPG or diesel or petrol, and which doesn't necessarily reflect the market reality at that point in time. I mean, it would move up or down depending on what is the ability to absorb by the consumers, and doesn't create panic situations or a hike suddenly and then a lower price a few months later. So given that being the alternate fuel that anyone compares for before he uses CGD, it's important that some similar mechanism which addresses
Yeah.
the
Got it.
issues of the sector, which we are hopeful that the committee would favorably look into.
And my final question then, Mr. Mehta, I'm sure many people don't know this, but the actual, interestingly, the word torrent is exactly how the company has shaped up in terms of a rushing stream, and really built itself into a very formidable player across all of these sectors, a combined market capitalization of over 80,000 crore rupees. Shareholders as well, I'm sure, are smiling. So any message to your shareholders that you would like to share, any long-term vision for the Torrent Group as a whole?
No, so over the years, we've taken measured steps towards incrementally delivering returns to the shareholders in a way and manner that is sustainable. I think that's been the hallmark of what our core philosophy is, and sticking to the values that the group stands for. I think that's of paramount importance to us. So while it's debatable that could we have grown a bit faster or not, uh, we continue to stick to this path of what we believe at that point in time is what is uh, a growth which is sustainable over the next 10 years. That pursuit will remain for us.
And we wish you all the very best. Thank you so much again for taking time out on
No,
your
it's
Tina.
been such a pleasure, and hope your all those who watch it will also like it as much.
I have no doubt, especially with this beautiful campus that we're in. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.